has been a unique surge in losses within the last year, causing many to find themselves in the throes of the grief process. This process is not linear, logical, or easy. It's confusing, scary, anxiety-provoking, and lonely. I know this because I too find myself grieving losses and anxious about the foreseeable future. With this being said, I want to ask those listening, what's your grief? And before you click on to the next video, allow me the opportunity to share with you a little bit about grief-related anxiety and ways to cope. I'm Alice Hamrick, master's level intern at Johns Creek and JCACounseling. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more great videos about mental health. I know we all have lost something this year or in past years and have been faced to consider, what do I do now? Maybe your grief is the loss of a dream or the loss of a moment or milestone. Did you experience a loss of a commencement ceremony due to pandemic circumstances? Did your senior year baseball season end prematurely because of COVID-19? Did you lose the opportunity to give a gentle closing as a loved one slipped from this life onto the next? I understand that we normally attribute grief to death of a loved one, but grief is an emotional response to the loss of anything we feel is important. Grief is an overwhelming weight, and as if this weight wasn't heavy enough, along comes anxiety. This is the voice in your mind begging the question, what's next? The loss of anything signals that something is changing, and change for many evokes great anxiety. Anxiety is a combination of both physical and psychological symptoms. This gestures that an individual's nervous system has moved from social engagement to a fight or flight response. This is where we might experience a myriad of thoughts, feelings of nervousness, increased heart rate, and butterflies in our stomach. And I want to normalize that this is not generalized anxiety, but is part of the grief process, because embedded in grief is fear and anxiety. Once the worst has already happened, our nervous systems go into a hypervigilant fight or flight state. Our sense of safety is challenged, and especially during these times when change is a daily occurrence. This hypervigilance can oftentimes lead us to overestimate the likelihood of bad things occurring again. Maybe we experience hypervigilance due to the next planned commencement ceremony because we remember the previous loss. Maybe the hypervigilance creates an anticipatory belief that a bad thing is going to happen at any moment. Or maybe we are scared to leave the house because we have been reminded of life's fragility as we have watched a loved one pass away. So, I'm sure you're starting to think, well, what can I do to cope with my grief-related anxiety? Well, I want to share with you a couple tips to help you manage the day-to-day. First, normalizing this emotional response is so important. I know anxiety is uncomfortable, and we may want to speed up the process or judge ourselves for feeling this way. Sometimes judgment of an emotional response causes the biggest disturbance. So please, remember to be patient with yourself and allow yourself the space to sit, experience the grief, fear, and anxiety without judgment. Many people experience anxiety following any type of loss. I know for me, grief-related anxiety started to lessen after I had adapted to the new change. And lastly, remember to turn toward, not away from the emotion. Lean into the grief process. Naturally, humans want to avoid pain and seek pleasure, so I understand it might feel better to avoid things that remind you of the loss or anything that evokes an anxious response. But this is only a temporary aid and delays processing emotion for a later time. Turning toward hard emotions helps to increase emotion regulation and widens our window of tolerance for the uncertainty. But if you feel like you have worked hard and allowed yourself the space to grieve, can feel, and it's still affecting your day-to-day, and you realize your coping efforts are exhausted and overwhelmed, maybe it is time to seek professional help. By clicking on the link below, you can find a counselor who will walk with you as you navigate the grief process and help you turn toward the fear of the uncertainty. They can teach you skills to cope with anxiety, like deep breathing, mindfulness, and grounding. I wish you strength and peace on your journey toward healing and wellness. Thanks so much for listening and watching our video and being part of Johns Creek and Alpharetta Counseling community. Please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell for more great videos.